Hey everyone, welcome back. Dan Shields here. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about a delay trick, but I'm going to do it in combination with some interval training stuff too. So it should be a cool lesson, and there should be a lot to it. The first thing I want to talk about though is the delay trick itself. And I think the first time I heard this delay trick, it probably was, well actually it was probably Run Like Hell on by David Gilmour on the Wall album, and then I heard a song by called Cathedrals by Van Halen that also did the same sort of trick, and Albert Lee, some other people have done the same sort of thing, and countless times since, especially with U2 and all the stuff that The Edge did. But anyhow, the basic trick is this. I'm just doing a dotted eighth note. So if I take this off, I'm just going. And it's a dotted eighth note that's, of course, in time. You know, what happens is you have two notes that are being sounded. Let's see if I can do this. Two notes like this, and the third note in between is being sounded. It's probably easier for me to do this. Anyhow, you get these two notes that sound like it's just you're picking everything. And so there's a really nice trick to it. And then if you do like just some regular scales or whatever, it sounds really brilliant. Brian May was also really fantastic at this. So let me walk through a couple of different things, a couple of different tricks with it, and then a couple of ideas that you can have with it. And then I'm going to walk through some really good intervallic ideas that you can sort of practice to get better on the instrument itself. All right, so the first thing is, what is the trick? Okay, the trick is this. It's just a simple delay, but when I put it in time, it sounds like I'm double picking twice as fast because of the way that the delay is coming back right in between my two picta notes. All right, so one thing on the delay that's really important, if you have like any sort of delay that you can adjust parameters on, is the roll off on the top end. You want that to be wide open. And what I mean by that is if it has a high cut filter, you don't want it to be like ding, boo, ding, woo, which sounds great for delays. Those are wonderful sounding delays if you like lower the high end on it down to 2,500 or 3,000 or something. But for this, you want it to be bing, bang, bing, bang, not bing, boom, bing, boom. It'll make it sound a lot better because you want every note to sound the exact same. All right, now let me walk through a couple of examples of what we can do to start things off. And I'd say this, to start, just hit a note, and this is going to be an important thing. If you just like lay on the note, it's going to be hard to hear, but if you bounce your finger on and off, you can start to hear where the time is. All right, now one easy trick to do is let's say I'm in the key of A, which I was for this example. If I just go down my A scale in the G form, it sounds pretty brilliant right off the bat. Okay, so that's one good way of doing things. Another trick that you'll hear guys do, and this was the Van Halen Cathedrals thing, was you can roll your volume up. Sorry, I'm going to tune this a little up. And you can do like this. Now, again, I'm playing different than I normally would for normal without delay sounds. If I was playing without a delay, you want stuff to be legato, where all the notes are tied together. With this stuff, I really want... So you see my fingers bouncing on all of this stuff, and that really helps to give the differentiation. Listen to the sound difference. You hear all those sort of all blur together, but if I do, it gives a differentiation. All right, so that's a good first exercise for you to do. Now the next thing that I'm going to get into is a lot more complex and a lot more fun to do in a way. If you take any of your major scales and just play them along one string, That's a pretty cool thing to be able to do. So if I take my A major scale and go down to the 7th, I'm going to play these notes here. And it's really good to be able to do that. Incidentally, if you want some more information, I have these Guitar Daily Workout systems, and soon I'll have system, I think, 9, 10, and 11 all do that sort of thing where they go through single string playing up and down the neck. It's actually a lot more important than you might think. But for this instance, too, I'm going to keep to one finger. And there's a reason for that. So let me start. And again, I can slow this down. Still sounds brilliant. All right, now the next set of notes that I'm going to do, and that's a great exercise by itself. You can just like run up and down that, just. And you can also use volume on it. Sounds pretty brilliant. The next step that I'm going to do, though, and that's just sort of wandering around, but the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to take it on the B string, and I'm going to take my major scale, but I'm going to take it from the 6th note, and I'm going to do like this. So I'm still in the key of A major. Okay, now if I put on my delay again. And that's a little bit hard to do. You can see, like, even choking up a little bit doing that. But the next step then on this is going to be to do intervals. And this is where things get really fun and really cool. And this is actually good even without the delay, being able to do this. So I'm going to do thirds. And I'm going to just start like this. I'm going to go straight down the scale. And I actually see these as chords when I do it. I'll call these out in a second here. So if I called them out, I would see a D chord, E chord, D chord, A chord, B minor chord, A chord, E chord, D chord. There's actually a couple different chord names now that I look at this that you can call these things as you go along. But I'm doing this exercise then. Okay, and if I put the delay on, let me get a little faster. And if you sort of wander around, and of course, you don't want to just wander aimlessly. You want to make little melodies, little themes and stuff. But that's a pretty good starting point. Then the next thing I like to do, so far we've just done thirds going down and separating those notes. It's really good to know your thirds on the guitar neck. The next thing I'm going to do is this, and this gets tricky and this gets really interesting, and this is really good for melodic playing too, is if I take those notes and I go to the B string then and down, and then I go back up to the E string, 2 notes descending on each of these. E string, E string, B string, B string, E string, E string, B, B, E, E. All right, pretty cool sounding. You can hear that has a lot of implications. Now that's going to take you a little bit of work to do, like to gear that up to be able to play that well in time. And you can just play it with a metronome while you're doing that. All right, so that has some deep implications because we're able to do this then with all different intervals. And I haven't worked through this a whole lot, but I'll sort of walk my way through this and what I mean by that. So I'm starting on the root note here if I'm in the key of A, right? Now, I can play my A scale down the string off of any note really, but if I do seconds to start off with, then I could go down and this is harder to do than you might think. At least it's hard for me. So that's the exercise we just did with the thirds, but I'm doing it with seconds instead. And then I can also do, we did this with the thirds. I can do that also with seconds. Which again, I think is very tricky to do, but it's really cool. And then if I put this with the delay, very cool sounding. All right, now you get the implication right away. You're like, oh, if I can do that with thirds, then I can do it with seconds. You can do it with all of them, and that's right. So we could do, what did I do? Seconds, thirds. I could do fourths. And I can also do that, let's see if I can do this. Oh, this is hard to do. Let me slow it down a little bit. And again, you can do it with volume. Wow. You get the idea. All right, and then the next thing you could do, okay, so that was doing with fourths. I could do it with fifths. So here's my fifth interval. Now, you might be asking, like, well, how are you seeing these? And I'm partly seeing them as intervals themselves, but I'm also seeing my major scale down a single string, and that takes some practice to be able to do. Again, if you want more practice on that, I think it's my systems 9, 10, and 11 that are not released yet, but that'll get into that. But on this one, fifths, augmented fifth, and then the and then with the delay. Pretty cool stuff. All right, then I can go to sixth, and people know sixth because this is the country thing. All right, so if I did the same thing, and then I'm going to try the All right, so that's the sixth. And then this one, I don't know if I can do this one, but it would be seventh. So I'm going down from the A note down to the B note. All right, and then all right, I'm not even going to try that with the delay because I'll probably butcher it. But you see the implications of these. You can do every interval for this delay trick, and then you can do some really, really beautiful patterns on it that hopefully will, give you some melodies, give you some ideas, maybe give you some hooks on songs that you're writing, sort of some spark ideas that, will generate into something that you've never done before. But it's a really, really cool thing to try to play around with and do, and it's a beautiful sounding thing as well. So hopefully that helps you a little bit, and until next time, God bless.